My name was Amir. I was an Imam, a voice of authority in my community, a pillar of faith in a world that often felt empty. On Friday afternoons, I stood before my congregation, delivering words that echoed between the tall buildings of our bustling Muslim neighborhood in New York. Reverence filled the air as the call to prayer enveloped us, yet beneath that sacred ritual, a shadow of doubt stalked my spirit. Something was amiss within me, an itch that no prayer seemed to scratch. I lived with the weight of expectation, driven by the teachings I revered, yet haunted by the silence that followed my questions. As I knelt in prayer, I felt a growing void, a hunger for something deeper than dogma could provide. I was torn, caught between the path of obedience and an unsettling yearning for truth. I didn't know then that my struggle would lead me to the edge of death, and beyond it, to an unfathomable encounter. During one fateful Friday prayer, as darkness swallowed my consciousness, I found myself transcending the walls of the mosque. A figure emerged from the shadows, emanating a light so powerful it shattered all I believed. It was Jesus, calling my name with a voice that pierced through the fabric of my existence. In that moment, the reality of a spiritual battlefield unfolded before me, illuminating the hidden forces at play not just in my faith, but across the globe. What I was shown was shocking. The chains of tradition, the fears that held my community captive, were all part of a greater scheme. A silent war waged against the soul of humanity. I returned to my life, bearing the weight of a truth that felt like both a gift and a curse. I was branded a heretic by those I loved, facing ostracism for daring to venture into spiritual territory few dared to tread. So now I stand before you, not just as Amir the Imam, but as a messenger awakened to a deeper reality. This journey didn't end with my transformation, it was only the beginning. The fight for truth and freedom from the shackles of fear is one we all must engage with. Before we dive into this extraordinary testimony, I urge you to share with me where you're watching from and what time it is in your corner of the world. And if you love Jesus, subscribe to Truth from Beyond. You won't want to miss the revelations that await. This is more than a story. It's a cry from beyond the veil that challenges us all to awaken. I remember the day everything changed for me like it was yesterday. It was just another Friday, in a typical bustling neighborhood in New York. The familiar call to prayer echoed through the air, intertwining with the delicious scents wafting from the family-owned restaurants that lined the streets. I was there, a simple Imam fiercely devoted to my community, yet, as I would come to discover, quietly wrestling with a growing discontent that crept into my heart. I've preached the teachings, warned of a hidden agenda lurking beneath our very lives, but deep inside, I felt an awakening was on the verge of blossoming. Little did I know that day would thrust me into a spiritual war one had never imagined. As I stood before my congregation delivering my usual Friday sermon, a feeling swept over me, a wave of clarity mixed with disorientation. My words began to fade into the background. Suddenly, I felt as if I was being pulled away from my body. It was as if the fabric of this world unraveled around me, and I was thrust into something far beyond comprehension. I found myself in a realm of piercing light and incomprehensible peace. In that moment, the chaos of the streets, the noise of the city, and the endless buzzing of daily life faded into insignificance. Then, he appeared, Jesus. His presence was overwhelming, radiating an understanding of love that transcended any teaching I had ever shared. As we spoke, I was flooded with revelations that left me trembling. He showed me the deception veiling the truth from our eyes, the realities overshadowed by our fears, and the influence of the elite pulling the strings from the shadows. The world, it seemed, was caught in a web woven from manipulation, greed, and an insatiable thirst for power. I could see the great spiritual war being waged, not just in the heavens above, but right within our hearts. There are divisions being sown among us, inciting hatred, keeping us focused on one another rather than on the common enemy that seeks to consume us. I could see how leaders around the world played their roles in this grand deception, leading us astray while cloaked in the guise of righteousness. In this journey, I saw glimpses of the future, visions of violences manifesting as a direct result of our ignorance. My heart ached with the urgency of the message. We must awaken from this slumber and see the truth of our existence. The secular and the spiritual must merge if we are to stand a chance against the overwhelming forces that threaten to drown us. The revelation was clear. We are more than mere spectators in the spectacle of existence. We are called to be agents of change, awakened souls bearing witness to the light we were meant to embody. But as I absorbed these truths, a deep dread welled within me. I was assured I had a mission, a calling upon my life, but with it came the weight of responsibility. I knew this knowledge would not be welcomed by many. The notion of Jesus stepping into a Muslim community would inevitably spark backlash, doubt, and skepticism. But the Spirit urged me forward, insisting this message was essential, one meant to awaken others to the realities of their spiritual battles. The fear of rejection threatened to engulf me, but the urgency I felt was undeniable. There was a fire igniting in my soul that could not be doused. As I returned to my body, barely aware of the surroundings, I realized this was merely a beginning. I had crossed a threshold into a reality filled with both hope and despair. Faces flooded my mind, my community, the divided souls I served, those lost in the confusion of these turbulent times. The spiritual war raged on, and as I glanced down at the world below, I felt a fierce clarity. The fight for truth had only just begun. And within that moment, the echoes of the call to prayer morphed into an urgent summons, a reminder. The fight for enlightenment was rising, and I was now at the center of it, carrying a message that could transform everything. There was a time when my life felt like a tightly closed book, pages yellowed with the weight of rituals and rules that seemed unyielding. I was Amir, a 38-year-old Imam in a thriving Muslim community in New York. From the outside, I appeared disciplined and respected, a beacon of faith amid the bustling streets. Yet, inside, an emotional emptiness gnawed at my spirit. I found myself questioning whether true spirituality was buried beneath the rituals we practiced, whether the connection I sought with God was lost amidst the veneer of tradition. The weight of this inner conflict grew unbearable until the day an event forever altered my existence. It began during Friday prayer, a time when the mosque filled with faces, some familiar, others just passing through. I stood in front of my congregation, delivering words that felt increasingly hollow as they escaped my lips. With each phrase, I sensed a veil hung over my heart. Suddenly, I felt an unexpected surge, as though gravity itself were losing its hold on me. A rush of energy flooded my being, and before I knew it, I was being pulled into the depths of a different reality. In that instant, I experienced what can only be described as a near-death experience. As I transcended the bounds of my physical form, I was enveloped in an intense, radiant light. It was in this sacred space that I first encountered Jesus. His presence was overwhelming, imbued with a profound peace that shattered the chains of my spiritual restlessness. He gazed into my soul, as if piercing through the layers of deception I had long embraced. In that moment, my mind raced with thoughts of everything I had known. I had dedicated my life to teaching others, while battling my own doubts. It dawned on me that the genuine awakening I sought had been obscured by the very structures I upheld, a hidden agenda woven into the fabric of our beliefs. With urgency, he shared revelations that transcended the borders of religion and culture. I saw the truth, a realization that our world is embroiled in a spiritual war that goes beyond mere conflicts or political struggles. The elite are orchestrating a dance of deception, their motives cloaked in shadows, manipulating the masses through a well-constructed narrative. I could see clearly how divided our society had become, families torn apart by ideology and communities shattered by mistrust. The brilliance of his truth illuminated the obstacles holding us captive. Our attention diverted from the genuine spiritual awakening we desperately need. As we spoke, I felt the enormity of the message weighing upon me. He showed me visions of future conflicts, each stemming from a lack of understanding, from a refusal to recognize the deception infiltrating our very existence. There were glimpses of the technology shaping our world, vast networks designed not for connection, but for control. I saw leaders, some well-intentioned but many ensnared by their own ambition, pushing us toward an uncertain future, blind to the spiritual ramifications of their actions. The urgency surged through me, a holy alarm that demanded immediate reckoning. The call to awaken was clear. It wasn't just a personal quest. It was a collective mission to unveil the truth hidden within shadows. But just as swiftly as the encounter had begun, I was pulled back into my body, gasping for breath in my familiar surroundings. The prayer had ended, and the sounds of my community returned to my ears, yet nothing felt the same. I now carried truths that could shatter the complacency within the hearts I served. I felt a swelling urgency, a divine responsibility to share the awakening I had experienced, but the fear of rejection loomed over me. I understood the consequences of speaking of such things. Some might welcome it, while others would dismiss it outright, or worse, turn against me. Still, the message burned within, a fire that could not be extinguished. The journey ahead was fraught with uncertainty, but one thing was certain: I was not the same, and the battle for truth had only just begun. As I engaged in prayer that Friday, something unusual began to unfurl within me. The familiar surroundings of the mosque, the gentle murmurs of my community, the cadence of our shared beliefs, they all started to fade into the background. I closed my eyes and bowed my head, yet an overwhelming sense of emptiness engulfed me. I felt trapped in the confines of dogmas I'd adhered to blindly, navigating through rituals that had come to feel like chains rather than pathways to enlightenment. The internal struggle was palpable. Was I truly honoring God, or was I simply going through the motions demanded by tradition? This feeling of doubt intensified in the nights that followed. I began to dream, and in those dreams, images of spiritual freedom danced tantalizingly out of reach. I saw vast landscapes filled with light, places where my spirit could soar without the confines of expectation. I would awaken, drenched in sweat, my heart racing. The dreams felt like a summons, a revelation that pierced the veils of my complacency. Each night I sensed a growing urgency, an awakening that nudged me towards something deeper, something that contradicted the teachings I had held dear. It was in those shadows of vulnerability that I pondered the truths hidden from my understanding, a battle brewing within, magnifying my quest for authenticity. One evening as I knelt in prayer, the emptiness grew unbearable. I felt a pull, a force that would not be denied. For an instant, the world around me faded, and I was thrust into a different dimension. The sensation was electric, as if I had been unplugged from the mundane and reconnected to divinity itself. That's when I saw him, Jesus. His presence illuminated the darkness that encircled my spirit. He spoke, not with words but with a knowing glance, an understanding that transcended language. In that moment, all my doubts, all my fears were laid bare before him. The revelation was staggering. I stood witness to the hidden agenda at play in our world, an intricate web spun by the elite who thrive on our divisions. I was shown visions of leaders manipulating truths, pitting communities against one another, blinding us to the deception infiltrating every aspect of our lives. The spiritual war was not just worldwide, it was within us. I felt a profound urgency mounting within my soul. The truth needed to be revealed. The power of Jesus' message had always been about love and unity, yet we were increasingly drawn into conflict because of our enforced differences. I saw how easily humanity could be distracted and divided, led down a path that served the interests of a powerful few, rather than the well-being of the many. As the encounter drew closer to its end, the messages poured into me like a torrent. Jesus spoke of the awakening needed for us to rise above the chaos, to reclaim our spiritual identity amid the dark forces conspiring to keep us shackled. The visions unfolded rapidly, wars fueled by hatred, technology serving as a means of surveillance and control, communities fractured by fear and misunderstanding. The implications were staggering. I knew I had been chosen to carry this revelation. It wasn't merely about my spiritual struggle anymore. It was about rallying those around me to see beyond the deceptions that had clouded our judgment for far too long. The responsibility weighed heavily on my heart, but I felt more alive than ever, ignited with purpose. Just as suddenly as the light had descended upon me, I was thrust back into the reality of my mosque, surrounded by my congregation. My breath came in ragged gasps, the weight of what I had witnessed pressing down on my spirit. The emptiness that had once consumed me was replaced by an intense fire to share this truth. But fear gripped me as well. How would I communicate these revelations? Would they meet acceptance or be met with scorn? The battle I had witnessed was not just external, it was personal. I now stood at a critical juncture, the whispers of heaven resounding in my heart, urging me to act. The world outside was waiting, and I felt the dawning realization that this spiritual war had drawn me into its epicenter. My journey of awakening was just beginning. As I led the congregation during Friday prayers, the atmosphere was thick with devotion, yet an unsettling emptiness lingered deep within me. I wanted to feel the immediate connection to God that I encouraged others to experience, but instead, a gnawing sense of doubt crept into my heart. The words I spoke, while powerful to many, echoed hollowly within me. It felt as if an invisible barrier separated me from the spiritual fulfillment I longed for. As the rhythmic chants reverberated in the mosque, I found myself slipping into a trance-like state, pulled inward, away from the physical world around me, and deeper into my soul's recesses. In that suspended moment, the environment shifted dramatically. I was enveloped by darkness, a profound silence where even my thoughts seemed muffled. It was unsettling, yet amid the shadows, a presence emerged. I felt an energy that made my very being tremble. Suddenly, I recognized the figure before me, Jesus. He stood there, radiating compassion, his eyes deep pools of understanding. As he called my name, it resonated within me in ways I couldn't articulate. In that space of spiritual confrontation, I understood that I was being invited into a deeper reality, one filled with revelations about the spiritual war we faced in this life, particularly against the hidden agendas masked by societal norms and religious doctrines. As we engaged, Jesus revealed the intricacies of the battles occurring around us, spiritual forces woven into the fabric of our lives, manipulating faith and hope. I saw glimpses of leaders from various spheres, their greed bending the will of the innocent. Their ambitions served the elite, a dedicated network intent on keeping people divided, blind to the truth that unites us all. The realization hit me like a wave. We're being distracted by our differences while a greater war is waged in the shadows. The light of his truth penetrated the dark corners of my understanding, illuminating how deeply the deception runs through our institutions and hearts, turning us against one another. He took me through scenes of societal decay, witnessing the crumbling bonds within families, communities, and nations. Images flashed of wars fought not just on battlefields but within homes, fueled by ideologies that have sprung from ignorance. I felt the weight of this reality as a heavy stone in my chest, the urgency to awaken others pulsating through me. As I confronted my own role in this drama, I realized that complacency was a weapon against the truth, one I had wielded unintentionally. I had operated within a framework of belief that did not question the underlying motives. But here in the darkness, I discerned that what we deemed faith had too often become a chain rather than a bridge toward liberation. With each revelation, my spirit surged with a mix of fear and hope. Jesus conveyed the importance of this awakening, not just for myself, but for all of humanity. He implored me to share these truths, to shake others from their slumber, and bring to light the spiritual war being fought around us. This journey was not solely mine. It belonged to every soul yearning for genuine connection with the divine, free from the grips of societal manipulation. The path ahead seemed daunting, the thought of confronting long-held beliefs, but the potential for transformation drove my spirit. I understood the importance of revealing the light within, the capacity we all hold to challenge the status quo, to rise above the dividing lines drawn by the elite. Just as the weight of our conversation peaked, I felt the space around me quaking, pulling me out of the darkness. The first rays of awareness began to drench me as I struggled to grasp the enormity of what I had experienced. The prayer had ended, but I was forever changed. The urgency to communicate the urgency of the spiritual awakening resounded within me. My mind raced with thoughts of how to convey this radical truth, a truth that could bridge gaps born from years of deception. The feelings of power and trepidation intertwined. As I tried to process my new reality, I saw the faces of my congregation, unaware of the tempest brewing just beneath the surface of their beliefs. The battle for their minds and souls had only just begun, and I now stood as an unwilling yet determined soldier in this spiritual war. As the trance faded and I found myself back within the walls of the mosque, the echoes of my experience still resonated within me. The air felt heavier, charged with an energy that was both familiar and alien. I blinked against the harshness of reality, the warmth of Jesus' presence still lingering in my spirit. But with each passing second, the weight of my newfound truth became more burdensome. I stood there trembling, knowing that the path forward was fraught with danger. In the moments that followed, doubt seeped into my heart like a cold shadow, mingling with a deep-rooted fear of rejection. When I finally gathered the courage to share my experience with my family and community, their reactions cut me deeply. The disbelief flashed through their eyes, an instant dismissal of everything I had witnessed. "You've been led astray," they whispered, the words dripping with disdain. My loved ones branded me a heretic, a traitor to the beliefs we had revered together. I tried to explain the spiritual war that I had seen, the manipulation and deception that bound us, but my words fell on deaf ears. I could see the walls of their hearts closing, a painful isolation wrapping around me like a suffocating cloak. Every encounter became a battle. Friends I had known for years turned away, their expressions filled with a mixture of fear and anger. I could feel their confusion. I had shattered the illusion we'd so carefully crafted, a comfortable reality where faith meant unwavering loyalty. And yet I stood before them, transformed, an outsider among my own people. I carried the weight of revelations too profound to ignore, yet the consequences of revealing such truth were painfully clear. I was losing the connections that made up my world, replaced by the gnawing fear of eternal solitude. The shame and guilt began to intertwine with the fear. I wrestled with myself daily. Had I truly heard Jesus, or had my mind conjured this experience out of desperation? The isolation felt unbearable. It was as if the very foundations of my being had been ripped apart. The community that had once embraced me now seemed to exude hostility, as if my transformation was a personal betrayal to their rigid dogmas. I couldn't help but question myself. Was I brave for seeking the truth? Or was I foolish for straying so far from the beliefs that had guided me for so long? In the stillness of my room each night, I returned to the inner battle, wrestling with the intense feelings of dislocation. I understood that the awakening I had experienced would inevitably spark conflict, not just within my community but within myself. The revelations of hidden agendas controlling our lives, the spiritual war being waged in silence, now felt like a haunting echo I couldn't escape. I longed to share the hope I found, but how could I, when the fear of rejection loomed so large? The thought weighed heavily on my heart. Was I strong enough to bear my truth alone, or would I continue to live in the shadows of fear, paralyzed by the consequences? Every day turned into a test of my faith, an incessant challenge to confront the reality of my beliefs against the powerful forces of deception that sought to silence the voice within. The journey ahead felt uncertain, yet I could sense something within me desperately yearning for liberation. In the days following my revelation, I found myself navigating a tumultuous sea of doubt and isolation. My previous world had collapsed, leaving me adrift and yearning for answers that seemed just out of reach. The rejection from my community and family weighed heavily on my spirit, prompting an inner urgency to seek truth beyond the confines of what I'd always accepted. I felt an undeniable pull toward the Bible, a text I had never truly explored. Late at night, amidst the silence of my room, I began to read, hungry for understanding, fearful yet compelled to uncover the mysteries that lay within its pages. Each word felt alive, resonating with a frequency that matched my awakened spirit. I came across stories of transformation, of individuals who had faced their own spiritual wars and emerged on the other side, forever changed. With every verse, the hidden agenda of manipulation and deception that I had come to recognize in the world seemed to unravel before me. It was as if the Bible was not merely a book of ancient tales, but a manual for navigating the complexities of faith and spiritual awakening. I lost track of time, diving deeper into the teachings of Jesus, and a flicker of hope began to ignite within me. I started watching videos of others who had undergone similar transformations, people who spoke passionately about their encounters with Jesus, their battles against misapprehension, and the revelations they'd received. Each testimony mirrored aspects of my own experience, creating a profound sense of validation. These shared stories illuminated a path ahead, one that offered the possibility of reconnection not just with my faith, but with a larger community that understood the nuances of spiritual awakening. The more I listened, the more I felt the weight of my isolation lifting, replaced by a sense of solidarity and belonging. Emboldened by these newfound connections, I sought out a small community of believers who embraced the same transformative journey I was on. Here, within this supportive enclave, we gathered to discuss Scripture, to share our fears and victories, and to pray together. We understood, perhaps better than anyone, the challenges of breaking away from the traditional beliefs that had bound us. The spiritual war felt acutely real, yet we also recognized the beauty of awakening, the power of discovering the truth hidden underneath the layers of doctrine and societal norms. Each meeting infused me with fresh courage, and slowly, the guilt that once shackled me began to dissolve. Yet, even amid this newfound support, the dark shadows of fear lingered. I wrestled with the notion of fully embracing my truth, knowing that doing so could lead to further disapproval from those I once considered family. I sensed the elite forces at play, the deception that pervaded society, as they worked to keep us divided, and the urgency of our mission became apparent. We were at a pivotal moment, each whisper of truth, a small rebellion against the silence imposed by fear. I felt called to step into the light of this awakening, to share what I had learned and inspire others to confront their own spiritual wars. Yet as I stood on the cusp of this new journey, I wondered, would my past cling to me like a shadow, or could I reshape my identity into something greater? The search for truth was fraught with peril, but so was the silence I once embraced. What lay ahead was both terrifying and exhilarating, and I was bound to discover it. As I grappled with the weight of my recent experiences, a profound clarity began to dawn on me. The revelation I had received during that intense encounter with Jesus was not merely a personal awakening. It was a divine calling that echoed through my very being. I felt an irresistible urge to communicate the truth I had been shown, a truth that cast a light on the hidden spiritual warfare surrounding us. This was not just about my journey. It was about a mission to awaken others, to reveal the layers of deception created by the elite who manipulate society from the shadows. The realization struck me like a bolt of lightning. I was being called to action, to be a voice amidst the chaos. But embracing this mission was a double-edged sword. As I contemplated my next steps, I knew the risk was immense. Speaking out could lead to deeper divides with my community and family, people who I once thought would support me unconditionally. The fear of hostility loomed large in my mind. I could already hear the whispers of shame and betrayal echoing in the air, the judgment from those who would see my truth as treachery against our shared beliefs. Yet, despite the trepidation, the urgency of the spiritual war we were entrenched in compelled me to push forward. I understood that remaining silent would only further solidify the deception that had gripped so many, and I would not be a willing accomplice to that silence. The truths I had witnessed were too profound to ignore. In my dreams and through the teachings of the Bible, I came to see that the battles playing out in our world were not merely flesh and blood, they were battles of the Spirit. The spiritual war raged around us, exploiting our fears, our divisions, and our ignorance. With every passing moment, I felt Jesus urging me to engage with this fight, not just for myself, but for all those still lost and unaware of the forces manipulating their lives. Each experience I shared with my supportive community bolstered my determination to bring this awakening into the light, to help others see the hidden agenda that sought to keep us subjugated. I envisioned gatherings where we would discuss these revelations openly, confront the deceptions that had long clouded our understanding, and navigate the complexities of faith in an increasingly confusing world. In those moments, we would unite against the elite's agenda, standing firm in the knowledge that the truth would prevail. There was power in our collective awakening, a force capable of challenging the existing narratives that sought to imprison us in our doubt and fear. Yet, amidst my unyielding resolve, I clearly understood the potential cost of this path. Was I prepared to face the consequences of awakening? The risk to my safety was tangible, yet the risk of silence felt greater. Every day unfolded as a test of faith, intensifying my awareness of the stakes we faced. I recognized that the spiritual war was not just a struggle between good and evil. It was a deeply personal battle for each individual's soul. What would happen to my loved ones if I succeeded? Would they come to accept the truth? Or would they remain trapped in the web of deception woven by the elite? As these thoughts swirled in my mind, I felt a renewed determination to be the change I wanted to see, to be a light in the darkness. My mission was not just to share my experiences, but to empower others to confront their own truths, to awaken to the deception perpetuated around us. The journey ahead promised to be fraught with challenges, but I was ready to embrace the struggle. There was no turning back. The calling of my spirit was too loud to ignore, and the battle for awakening had only just begun. As the weight of my decision settled around me, I prepared to step into a new life, one that was both exhilarating and terrifying. Leaving my home meant breaking free from the constraints of a community that could no longer support me. The fear of rejection lingered, but the calling I felt from Jesus was louder than the whispers of doubt. My heart pounded with the urgency of my mission, compelling me to seek out those who were also lost, those who had yet to awaken to the spiritual war being waged around them. I understood that I could no longer hide within the shadows. I must step into the light, even if it meant walking away from everything I had known. I found a place in a modest neighborhood, one that was teeming with need. Here, in this urban landscape, I dedicated myself to evangelizing, reaching out to those who felt forgotten by society. I felt a deep connection with the people suffering around me, the homeless, the struggling families, the individuals who had lost hope. They, like me, were caught in the web of deception spun by the elite, manipulated by forces intent on keeping us divided and powerless. I began sharing the truths I had discovered, sharing my own story of revelation, inviting others to join me on this path towards spiritual awakening. Every day was vibrant with purpose and challenge. I would walk the streets offering food and supplies, stopping to listen to stories of despair and hope alike. Each encounter felt like a sacred moment, an opportunity to connect, to inspire. As I served those in need, I shared the message of Jesus, emphasizing his love and grace, the divine truth that we are all worthy of redemption, no matter our past. Many were receptive, illuminated by the flicker of hope I offered, while others remained skeptical, caught in their own struggles against the forces of deception that sought to bind them. The push and pull of belief and doubt fueled the fire of my own faith. Amidst this mission, I found solace in prayer, seeking guidance as I navigated the complexities of my new existence. I immersed myself in the scriptures, digging deeper into the promises Jesus made to those who followed him. I prayed for courage, for wisdom, and for strength to continue to reveal the hidden agendas that had caused so much pain. In the quiet hours of the morning, I often felt the presence of the divine surrounding me, encouraging me to persist even when the obstacles seemed insurmountable. Each revelation imparted upon my spirit formed a deeper understanding of the spiritual war at play, not just externally, but also within ourselves. The tension of my dual existence, one foot in the world I left behind and one in the mission ahead, was palpable. I felt the pressure mounting as I confronted the realities of societal division, technological manipulation, and the heavy hand of the elite orchestrating so much of our lives. My resolve was tested as I encountered resistance not only from the outside world, but also from the remnants of my former belief system that clung desperately to me. Each day presented a struggle between fear and faith, between the calling to serve others and the risk of personal safety. Yet, every moment of doubt only solidified my determination to combat the spiritual war surrounding us. With each passing day, the depth of my calling became clearer. Jesus' revelation was not just for me. It was a shared message meant to ignite the spirit of awakening in others. I realized that this journey wasn't solely about liberating myself, but about transforming lives, about awakening souls trapped in the darkness of deception. As I continued my mission on the streets, I could sense the beginnings of a movement rising, a collective awakening waiting to unfold. And though the road ahead appeared fraught with challenges, my faith stood firm, urging me to embrace the unknown. The time for awakening was now, and I felt ready to lead others into the light, no matter the personal cost. Years have passed since I embraced my new life, but the journey continues to unfold in ways I never expected. Residing in this new community, I've devoted myself to helping others discover their own spiritual truths, a mission that fuels my days. Each person I encounter carries their own burdens, their struggles echoing my past, as I encourage them to awaken to the realities that often lie hidden beneath the surface of our lives. I witness moments of transformation, a flicker of recognition in their eyes, an understanding blooming where doubt once lingered. It's in those moments that I feel a deep connection to the very revelation Jesus blessed me with, inspiring me to share my testimony freely. Yet, amid this service, an inner longing remains, a painful yearning for reconciliation with my family and the society I left behind. I think of my loved ones often, knowing the divides my spiritual awakening has wrought. The fear of their judgment and rejection haunts me, shadowing my heart. I've become a figure of controversy, someone who dared to challenge the hidden agenda that tethers so many to a cycle of deception. The spiritual war won now recognize rages not just outside but within me, a complex tapestry of love, loss, and a desire for understanding. Each day I grapple with the weight of my choices and the consequences they bore, fully aware that not everyone can follow the path I've chosen. As I share my story with others, I emphasize the importance of confronting the unseen forces at play in our lives. My experiences with Jesus revealed a deeper understanding of how the elite manipulate our perceptions, steering us away from the truth. This truth is an elusive yet powerful force, one that can foster awakening but is often shrouded in fear. The manipulation of societal narratives creates divisions that keep us apart, making it all the more crucial for those of us who have awoken to reach out and bridge those gaps. I've come to see my role not only as a messenger of hope, but also as a peacemaker, yearning for a day when my family might understand the depth of my journey and the calling that pulled me away from them. The encounters I have with those seeking guidance are often infused with urgency, underscoring the reality of our spiritual war. Each conversation serves as a reminder that many remain trapped, unaware of the chains that bind them. I strive to illuminate the darkness with every story of transformation, sharing not just my own but those of others I've met along the way. I am constantly reminded that everyone's journey is unique, and the struggle towards understanding is integral to our collective healing. Together, we create a mosaic of experiences, each contributing to a broader narrative of awakening, one that can challenge the elitist structures entrenched in society. Yet the ache for reconciliation with my past lingers in my heart, a bittersweet reminder of what I've left behind. I often wonder how my family perceives my journey. Do they see me as lost, or do they sense the depth of passion driving my mission? The conflict between duty to my newfound faith and love for my family creates a tension that can feel insurmountable at times. I pray for the day when I can return to them, not as a renegade, but as an embodiment of the truths I've come to understand. I hold out hope that someday they too will recognize the spiritual war for what it is, breaking free from the hidden agendas that have long ruled their lives. The longing within me fuels my mission, reminding me that the fight for truth and connection is both personal and universal. As I continue to share my journey, I remain ever hopeful that the awakening of one can spark the awakening of many, forging paths back to unity. In the midst of unraveling my life, I discovered a truth that resonated deeply within my soul. My journey of spiritual awakening had not only liberated me from the confines of my previous beliefs, but it had also illuminated the dangerous hidden agendas at play in the world around us. For years, I had worshipped within the framework of my faith, adhering to rituals that offered comfort but ultimately lacked the life-giving essence I was seeking. Now, as I reflected on my experiences, I realized that the revelation from Jesus cut through the illusions of conformity, carving a path to genuine freedom for those brave enough to pursue it. The moment I first encountered the presence of Jesus during my near-death experience remains etched in my memory like a sacred scar. It was a divine confrontation that opened my eyes to the reality of the spiritual war we are all participants in. One where the truth often lies buried beneath layers of societal deception. Jesus revealed to me the ways in which the elite manipulate our ideologies, driving wedges between us to maintain control. I saw leaders who prioritized power over truth, infusing fear into the hearts of the masses to further their agendas. The divisions we faced weren't merely about politics or religion. They were orchestrated distractions, veiling a more profound struggle that threatened to consume our very humanity. As I embarked on this path of understanding, I encountered others who shared similar revelations. Each story was a powerful testament to the transformative power of Jesus' message. They too had felt the constraints of their religious backgrounds and sought something deeper, a connection that transcended cultural expectations and familial bonds. We gathered, bonded by the shared acknowledgement that the pursuit of truth was essential for liberation in a world rife with deception. It became increasingly evident that while religion could provide a framework for belief, It was the genuine search for spiritual truth that unlocked the doors to true freedom. The repression I had experienced within my previous community was a stark reminder of the walls that religion can build, walls that often hinder the awakening process. I was acutely aware of the risks involved in this new journey, the potential backlash from those who held tightly to their traditions. Yet, with every encounter, I felt further empowered to share the message I had received. It was imperative that others understood the freedom available to them through the truth that Jesus embodied. Every moment spent in the service of awakening others fueled my desire to dismantle the constructs of deception that had kept so many ensnared. Each interaction sparked a flame of hope, illuminating the path for those who felt lost and voiceless amid the chaos of our current socio-political landscape. Through my testimony, I sought to awaken others to the spiritual war that raged not just externally, but within their very beings. My voice grew bolder as I witnessed the shift in those around me. Every heart open to the truth was a small victory in a much grander battle. I knew the work was far from finished. The urge to reach out to my family lingered in my heart. Could I navigate the divides without losing myself to the tides of cultural pressure? As I stood firm in my mission, the echoes of my journey propelled me forward, guiding me through the uncharted territories of faith and reconciliation. The stakes had never been higher, and the fight for truth had only just begun. As I stand here today, sharing the remnants of my journey with you, I feel an urgency that stretches far beyond my personal story. Have you ever experienced a moment when the veil lifted, revealing the profound truths hidden just beyond your grasp? Have you sensed the spiritual battle unfolding all around us, the one that whispers in our ears and pulls at our hearts? You're not alone in this feeling. You are an integral part of a cosmic narrative, a fight for awakening that calls out to every soul. The darkness is not a mere absence of light. It's a force that seeks to bind us through fear and division. I've seen this fight. It's personal, it's real, and ultimately, it is redeemable. The revelations I received during my near-death experience became a clarion call for me to not only rediscover my own spiritual path, but to shout a warning to others. There is a greater agenda at play. As we hold tightly to our beliefs, it's easy to overlook the fact that there is hope and truth waiting just beyond the confines of tradition. It's time to rise from sleep and embrace the light that has been offered to us. I urge you now, share your own experiences in the comments. Have you felt that whisper of truth in your own life? Or perhaps you've wrestled with similar doubts. Your voice matters, and together, we can create a community of awakening, shining a light on the darkness that seeks to isolate us. And if this message resonates with you, please don't forget to subscribe to Truth from Beyond and ring that notification bell. Your support ensures that these vital truths continue to reach others who yearn for liberation from the shadows. In our next video, I will delve deeper into another testimony, a powerful account from someone who found hope and healing through their own encounter with the divine. This is not just a collection of stories. It's a movement towards understanding who we truly are and the forces that bind us. Together, we can break those chains. Thank you for joining me on this journey. I'm Amir, and remember, the truth is a light that has the power to awaken even the darkest seas of despair. Embrace it, share it, and let the world know that we are ready to fight for a brighter tomorrow.